and welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and video show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, and experience and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe so you won't miss a new episode. I'm your host, Frits Bussemaker, and today I'm delighted and privileged to have a conversation with Yossi Somer. Yossi, I'm going to call you Yossi. Welcome to the
Yes,
program.
thank you very much. It's a pleasure and honor to be with you.
Allow me to introduce you just a couple of words so people have an idea what your background is. In the preparation, I found out you are an award-winning filmmaker, artist, entrepreneur, independent peace and socialist activist since your teens. You're also on the advisory board of the BPUR International, which will cover a little bit what that is all about, a global campaign to enact international treaty to ban the political use of religion.
Yes.
Interesting prospect, but also on the advisory board of Momentum Artist, which is an artist management producing agency. Your background, London Film School, and also, which I find quite interesting, you speak over 8 languages. So
it's kind of down, it's not all of them on the same level, but
no, but it's probably 7 more than most people speak. So, hey, let me ask you my very first question. I just gave you an introduction how, when people search your name, how people would find you when you go on the internet. But how would you introduce yourself when you meet people face to face? What's the first thing you want people to hear?
I'm a human being that lives on this planet and is concerned with what's going on, not for the first day and not from the first day I was born, but I would say since childhood when I started to experience war and terror as I grew up. So, that's basically it. So I'm trying to reach an equilibrium wherever I am,
Okay. Okay, and because I haven't mentioned that you grew up in Israel,
Yes,
but you now live in Norway.
absolutely. On a peninsula, lovely peninsula in the Oslo fjord. And I sit on agriculture ground. There's some a bit of, I'm sustainable. I have 3 sources of water here, and I have ground which I grow food when it's possible. Lots of wood and water around. So that's a part of the philosophy.
Okay, but growing up in Israel, coming to Norway, take us a little bit along that journey. How did that happen?
Well, the story always goes to the girl and the woman. And I studied in London film, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
There, I used Grieg music to my first exercise in 16 millimeter color. And when editing it, it's kind of repetitious. The same tune. Suddenly comes a blonde hair into the editing room in London and asks me who I am and what it is. And then that's not my wife. That's a sister of my future wife. And that's how things. It's Edward Grieg to blame in a record shop in Piccadilly that I picked up. He's to blame that I'm here.
Okay.
Basically.
Okay. But the trip
Yes.
was London then like just going there for study and education with the tension for going back?
Yes, I went back. I actually go back into it recently more and more. I went back when the second Lebanon war started in the 82, 83. And I'm a combat paramedic, so I felt that my time in London is done and I have to go to help. And there I encountered quite a lot of terrible scenes. One of them was after a booby trap car entered the base in Lebanon, and half of our unit was there, and we were woken up 6 a.m. In 7 minutes to be ready to move, and we moved to help them. And we basically supplied mainly stretchers and blankets to people who were sick as a cardboard. I helped one person.
Okay.
to stay alive.
Sometimes
So
sometimes that's the only thing you need to do is just help that one person, I guess.
I heard on the radio about a year ago somebody testifying that he was under the rubble and somebody gave him transfusion through the wires and the beton, which was still a bit steamy. If I'm not mistaken, that's the guy.
Okay. Now, coming back to Israel, to that region, it's not holiday, it's not only family or what you said, being a comment medical professional.
Yeah.
You also want to make change through your work as an artist, I understand.
Yes, I mean, you see it immediately. I mean, I'm dealing always with hot potatoes and always a bit before time. So I've got used to it. I'm ahead of time with many. So in the IDF already, the Israeli military, I did a short instructional film on PTSD. My first feature film was on PTSD. Which was way early and it's a macho education, so nobody wanted to get into it so much. It was already with collaboration with the jazz musician Jan Garbarek, the Norwegian master saxophonist that wrote for me the score, and in a dialogue with Fred Zinnemann, who did High Noon and From Here to Eternity, etc., that is considered my godfather in LA.
Okay.
You know, so basically I touched that, and then also I did the first, what is considered the first music video in Israel in 1983, which is an anti-war song, a rock song of a radical rock band who became the hymn of the soldiers in Lebanon.
So, and I understand that the singer in that video is Alpha Blondie and Ivorian.
No, that's a
Okay,
video
sorry.
I did. No, that's a video I did some years later.
Okay.
When Alpha Blondie and the Wailers came to perform in Israel, and we entered the meeting room, which was very cloudy, smoke.
Yeah.
And we did for him the music video, which I created for him this music video with the Israeli producer and Israeli cameraman. And the message is quite amazing. It's reaching soon 70 million viewers, and it's actually going. It's in the last 8 years. It was exposed, and it's exponential. I mean, it's almost every month a million up,
Okay.
Which is quite amazing. And this video is absolutely transmitting my message, which is a message of peace, and especially to the Abrahamic religions, and we can touch about it later, what I did and how I moved on that domain.
Actually, I'll come back to the other video later you mentioned, and sorry about the confusion from my side, but I was just wondering, how did you two meet? Was it, we just need a professional who's good at making films, or was it, did they know that you also want to do something with the content?
No. It was coincidental. It was a deal made by the impresario who brought them to Israel, and a producer who I worked with, and I would not take any merit for things which I don't deserve.
But it's it does fully align with your own work as an artist. Look, that message is also my message, and
100%. And it evolves. So, it's strange sometimes how life evolves. And we talk to young people also here. So it's important to understand that any experience is a brick in the chessboard and the palace that you want to build up, so everything matters. So it's layers on layers on layers. And at the end of the day, you find yourself suddenly at a point, like you're saying, we are now, and you look back and you understand that all these steps were correct. Even I fell on my nose heavily.
Did you, in hindsight, it becomes quite clear what you've done and what that led to. Can you recognize it the moment you're confronted with one of those pieces of chess pieces or not?
I would say very difficult question. I would say that in Oslo, in a church where I was invited to talk to, I'm sorry if I'll be a bit blunt at times, to these multi-religious meetings, which has a lot of air, hot air, and nothing is really happening there. And it's a nice talk, and everybody feels nice afterwards, and they go home. But there were some Shia Muslim women there, which I've met before. It's the first time, it's about 2014 in Oslo, that I saw on the Facebook a 19-year-old Iraqi Shia young girl calling for peace and calling for ban of ISIS and calling for a ban of a certain very extreme Islamic group in Oslo, and made them all march in the streets together, all the imams, with the prime minister then talking by the parliament. So immediately I reached out, and many people said, listen, she was ISIS herself, be careful. I reached out, we met with my son present, and then the woman behind the scenes followed my son and me to the concentration camps with all my son's class, and swore never again. And these are Shia Iraqi people. So this was a moment when I was on stage in that church, and some of the imams were in public, and that girl who brained all everything, studying medicine, was on the stage, a bit far from me, just to be politically correct. And I blessed everybody in Arabic. I exercised that with somebody that knows Arabic, and I said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, in their language. I blessed them. It's actually the Hebrew blessing made into Arabic, but they don't know it. And afterwards, and the imams answered in the public. And afterwards, one came to me and said, the one who says the blessing first is a peace man. So this was the moment that I confronted all the, bricks and bits and bits and pieces. And then, I was in a mosque, and then I met some people from the UAE in Malta, in the palace of the president, to discuss much later. But this is the moment that my theory, which was developed several years before, banged with reality.
Okay.
And it worked.
Yeah. And can you give a brief summary of what your theory is? What did you want to do?
If we connect the tribal aspect and the ecological aspect, and we see where we are in the world today, where, I'm sorry if I'll be blunt to the Europeans mainly, and North Americans sometimes, the colonial power abused Africa and the Middle East heavily. And there's no wonder what's happening now in the world, this chaos. And retribution, compensation, I don't know how it will be done. It's the same to the Hebrew tribes, to the 12 Hebrew tribes who consistently are abused for a long time. But actually, Israelis and Jews are not aware of their Hebrew tribal identity. And I took that term and I turned it upside down, and I said, in the politics now, Israel, Zionism, Jew are becoming like bad words, you know what I mean? I said, okay, we have a deeper root. And that deeper root is connected also to what's happening around. And I wish for an equilibrium internally, which is very complex, and externally, seeing the whole tribal scene connected to the ecology, coming to a balance by the colonial world, which is the powers.
Okay.
Who lead the world, or led the world until China and BRICS came up.
Now, hopefully...
Understood, or it's so complicated?
No, I'm getting the message. No, I'm getting the message, and I see you're placing it in a I would say you're placing what's happening today in a historical context, and
yes,
which I very much appreciate. The question I have that is, it's not, we're going to explore the content a little bit later, but also the process of how were you able to make yourself heard? How were you able to be invited to be on that stage? Because I'm hopeful that many more people out there would have the same thoughts, the same vision. And suppose they would have that, what would your advice be to get on that stage and present that message, or any other message maybe people might have? How do you create a stage for yourself?
Well, I would say that if Mark Zuckerberg would not have come forward with his platform, it would probably have been very difficult.
Yeah, but how did okay? So you
That's
make use of technology. Yeah, technology.
Yes. So the use of technology and social media today opens the horizon completely for anybody. An anonym from a tribe in Africa that sits or in Peru on the mountains or anywhere in the world can come forward as long as you're honest, persistent, and clear about your message. These are the things which you need to do. If you're consistent, you change ways, you reinvent yourself, all what people know that they need to do, like with the business plans and everything. I've been a bit in that area. The business plan is you. If I follow your kind of brand, is you, and you have to develop and adjust all the time to the obstacles who you are confronting in portraying the message, both in your private life, and I went through a lot, and both in your activity.
So what I'm hearing you say is, as long as your North Star, as long as your own vision is clear, how you get there might be a bumpy road. You might need to backtrack and approach it differently. So you learn along the way the best way to be on that stage, share the message. And if you're consistent and persistent, eventually you'll get there.
Eventually, yes, most people, not everybody. So it can be an empty promise, but I think it has to do probably with the brain that you meet on the way, those brains and souls you meet on the way. And if they are, it's like a billiard kind of thing, kicking a bit the ball to the right direction. And if you flow with it, then you are able. But sometimes many people miss the opportunities that are coming their way. They don't see them. They think these people are, who are they? What are they saying? It's like, it's how I got to you. It's that person, to me, for example, he connected me to so many people. And sometimes, if, you think, how is he able to do it? It's like a kind of in a very special way. So you have to listen and be attentive to these people on your way who are trying to help you, and sometimes you don't see it.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting, because for me, I translate that we need to make a distinction so that you have a particular North Star, so you have a clear vision, I want to go in that direction. And then if somebody then approaches you, on one hand, it could lead to thinking, okay, this advice is trying to change my vision, but it's advice which is actually meant to help you get you to reach your vision. And sometimes you cannot distinguish the means and the purpose. That's what I'm hearing you saying.
No, it's very simple. I mean, if it has to do with an action that I have to do, like to show up in a mosque or to show up in, wherever, I have to analyze it in terms of risk.
Yeah.
But sometimes I have to go places, which is not ideal for people in my identity. And I have to weigh how it moves me to the next level.
Okay, but
with advice, it's easier. It's like either you take it or not. So it's.
I want to come back to what you just said. My identity. What is your identity, if that's an issue?
My identity is I belong to the Hebrew tribes.
Okay.
I've learned through the last decades that also belong to Levi tribe, and my ancestors, father to father to father, belonged to the priest in a temple. By kind of documents in Hebrew, which we could verify. I'm Israeli born, an Israeli citizen, and I'm a Norwegian citizen living in this tranquility, green tranquility, and which I appreciate.
I got that. Hey, I promised I was going to get back to the other video you mentioned way in the beginning. Sorry
83.
about the confusion, but so you also helped produce a music video which became the anthem of the Israeli army, if I understand you correctly.
Not the Israeli army. I can't, it's too pretentious of me. I mean, I would say like this. It's a song called Don't Light Me a Candle. It's a dead person, a soldier who says, don't give me this shit. You know what I mean? Don't make me ceremonies afterwards, etc., etc. And it was the first production in parallel to MTV launch, which had a budget, had costumes, had, this kind of look, which is a music video today. The song itself, I mean, because of the message, the young man, and not only young man, in the front, in the field, felt it reflects their voice, so it became a known song among them. I would not say more. The IDF, the Israeli military, has an anthem, and it's, it's like I would not exchange that. But
okay, well. How do you then reply to that success? Are you successful for the fact that it gets a lot of views? Are you happy that it helps get a particular message, a content across? So then that's a question. How do you define success of your work?
I think success for me is the fact that the message is coming across. I don't count. This is a new thing to count likes and views and all this, but it's good. It helps me. Again, the social media and technology helps me to be sustainable and show that it's real in the digital world. I think the fact that the message is coming across is the most important thing, and the impact it has. And now I can touch to the more sensitive part of what I think we can talk about. I would talk less about how I see the internal Israeli society, the Hebrew tribes aspects, which is a bit complex, and I don't want to go too much into it, but it has to do with it. I would say that the return of the Hebrew tribes back home should have been welcomed by the Arab tribes warmly. They misunderstood the message at the time, long time ago, and were manipulated by the colonial powers. My message to my Arab brothers and sisters, which works, and it started by a theory that our tribes cannot live forever on the sword. We have to integrate. We have to come back home, really, in this sense. So this message works very fast among the tribal thinking people. They understand immediately what I'm talking about. And I'm saying we, and it sounds who at the time, we can eat together, can work together, can prosper together, can create the Middle East Business Union, which is disconnected from the colonial powers, which will have a Hague court in Baghdad or Jerusalem to bring in whoever comes again to make war between us. It's radical thinking. They love it. And I see the Persian culture, the Babylonian culture, the Greek culture, the Byzantine culture, and the Egyptian culture and the Hebrew culture connected. These are cultures who brought to the world an immense amount of knowledge, which was stolen probably from Alexandria Library at the time by the Greeks and the Romans. Again, it's the same thing. We have to see the perspective of things, and I think it has to be done with a technological mind, future thinking, but taking the roots from where they are and not falling into local political disputes who can kill the idea. And this comes across fast. And I would say that through Backdoor Channel, I understood that this philosophy, a paper which exists only in Hebrew and read by now more people, but a few in the beginning, has impact and kind of inspired, I will not say anything, I will not take any credit for more, the Abraham Accords.
Got it. Thank you, Yossi, for sharing your vision on how you see the world and what you're doing about it. Is this also how you want the world to remember you?
Oh, it sounds as if you're preparing an assassination.
Yeah, no, I realized it was a little bit dramatic. I apologize for that. But more optimistic. Do you have some kind of legacy in mind? So some.
No.
Okay, good.
I think the art pieces, which has to do also with the same philosophy at the end of the day, recycling wood, taking wood which was abandoned, thrown out in the forest, and bringing back life to them. This will be the legacy. And the work itself, I can't compete with politicians and people that sits in, in the most, critical points of impact. I'm just a human being sitting on a peninsula in Norway and projecting my thoughts.
Yeah.
And also some of them on direct impact, which will be probably more evident in some months.
Well, no, you triggered me one additional question. At the end of the day, are you an artist or an activist?
Both start with an AA. I would say I'm AA.
AA, both. That good. Well,
I don't see any. I mean, I flow between them. It's not, in time, in age. You understand that you either flow, you either water, or you're going to hit the wall. So you have to be water.
Good way to end this great conversation, Yossi, with you. Thank you so much for sharing your insights, what you're doing to help create a better, more peaceful world. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.